Welcome to Cybersecurity District, the podcast where we interview the most inspiring minds in the cybersecurity industry. Get ready to meet our next guest in the district. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mischa van Geelen, one of the most talented cybersecurity professionals in the Netherlands. Mischa found his first critical vulnerability at the age of just 13 at one of the biggest banks in the country. While the bank wasn't really thrilled, they did invite him to meet the boy wonder, which resulted in his first internship at ABN AMRO, all at his first year of high school at the age of 13. For me, that's just mind-blowing. At the age of 15, Mischa became the youngest full-time hire ever at Society, joining as a junior pen tester. Over the years, he had built an impressive track record in cybersecurity, and in 2017, he co-founded his first company, which became one of the most well-known incident response companies in the Netherlands. Last year, Mischa and his co-founders parted ways, and today he works at the TISO at one of the largest payment companies in Europe, and before he also worked as a TISO for Ideal, also one of the biggest payment providers in Europe. But knowing Mischa, he's not going to stop here. Still in his mid-20s, he's already preparing to build his next big cybersecurity venture, and I'm very curious to hear more about that as well. Mischa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Most kids are figuring out how to ride a bike or play video games at the age of 13, but you already found your first vulnerability at one of the biggest banks here in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, for a start, I started off at 13 with that vulnerability. But before that, I actually was already very interested in computers. From a very young age, I was already, my dad got one of the first Windows computers through his employer back then. And I did some things that they did not understand because I was very interested and intrigued by computers from a very young age. So that ended up with me getting these very old computers nowadays we got into a lot of trouble by downloading viruses, looking at that type of stuff. But I also was very interested in, for example, developing websites. And there were whole communities back then on now defunct platform Skype that were really built around helping each other out, finding these new stuff, how to build like a login form or a registration form. And it's those things that I learned that I started realizing, but if it's working like this on the back end, then probably this is also working similar in other websites. And it could be that if it's not programmed correctly, that there were vulnerabilities in there. And that's how I ended up finding my first vulnerability.
Okay. Yeah, that's so young. Like most guests that we have on the show, they start their career after doing a bachelor or master in computer science or AI. And they start at 23 or 25, but I think you had a completely different track. But going back to those early days, then ABN AMRO, as I understood, they were not super excited to hear that a young boy was snooping around.
Well, they were interested in what happened, but they didn't have like what we now call official coordinated vulnerability disclosure programs. So they kind of had to deal with the situation at hand without any previous experience with this. So that was a bit interesting for them as well. And I think that's one of the main reasons they were not that thrilled at the time, because you see nowadays in all types of banks and institutions, they have this very well organized and these clear reporting channels for this type of stuff.
But they did say, let's meet this young boy.
Definitely. So me and my parents went to Amsterdam at the age of 13. Talking to these security people and explaining to them what actually happened and what I found.
And was it at the headquarters of the bank?
It was the headquarters, yeah. So it's this very big building that you sit there in the lobby looking around like, okay, this is very, very unusual.
And what did your parents think?
They also thought it was a bit unusual, but they kind of went along with it.
Yeah. And then you sit there as a young boy. I've also been in that building. It's very impressive. You see all these bankers and fancy people. What was it like for you?
It was a very overwhelming experience. I think it was of course very interesting because getting invited and then being able to explain what happened was really cool. But I think the most coolest part was that eventually they offered me to do an internship at ABN AMRO, just actually to see how their daily operations were going in their security operations.
Okay. So you became an intern at the
I
age of
became
13.
13, yeah.
But I was at high school back then. I was chasing probably a football or something, and that was it for me. But how were you able to combine this then?
I did not really fit in at school at that time. So I knew a lot about technical stuff about computers, but other stuff didn't really interest me at the time. And what I did, for example, found vulnerabilities at my high school as well, which was not really that appreciated. They dealt with that differently, to put it lightly. But they did eventually recognize that, hey, if a bank is asking this type of stuff, maybe we should allow him to do that internship.
Yeah. And was it that classic story that you sort of hacked from the high school library that you were fooling around and?
No, it was actually serious vulnerabilities in their systems that they recognized as being serious, but instead of thanking for reporting it and not doing anything wrong with it, they started being very scared because they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So that was mostly the case because I did not do anything with the vulnerabilities, just found them and told them, hey, this is not good, fix it.
Yeah. But I think you then follow sort of the path of, hey, this is interesting, this gives me a major buzz. And you also did this not only for ABN AMRO Bank, but also with other organizations and then also high school. But I think around the age of 15, there's sort of a pivotal moment where your high school is really getting concerned and think, yeah, we need to change direction with this young fellow.
Yeah, but that was mostly because they didn't understand what I was doing, and I wasn't really getting good grades either because of that. Because I did have some very specific interest, but I feel like there's a lot of kids nowadays and teens that have a similar path but don't get the support that they need to end up in the right place. And those kids and teens often go off to a wrong path. And I was luckily helped by a member of parliament back then, Astrid Ozenbrug, who recognized, hey, you have a lot of potential, you do a lot of stuff, you help out actually on the internet by doing responsible disclosures. We should find you a place where you can actually learn and thrive.
Yeah, so they saw you were ethical.
Yeah.
And they wanted you to stay ethical. Yeah. Okay, and this is at the age of 15, but what was she able to do for you then?
Well, she managed to actually help me out to find a spot at a institute called ITVT that helped me to get some certifications in cybersecurity. And that also led for me to join a French consultancy company called Society at that age to be able to do pen testing. It's called there now. That's what I did then.
Yeah, but then you also sort of stop with high school.
Yes. Yeah. And she helped with that as well. That's by recognizing like, hey, you will learn a lot more and be able to do a lot more and make more impact on that with that institute, which is also, it was kind of like an alternative schooling.
Yeah.
But that also meant that I had to indeed leave the school what I was on currently then.
Yeah. Now my mind is racing a little bit. I'm just also curious. Were those happy years for you, or did you feel misunderstood, or did you think, hey, I'm off to something really cool? And then also for your parents, it's probably also they want the kid to be very in the comfort zone, probably just follow the regular steps, be a normal boy. And I think you had different plans.
Yeah, that didn't happen with me. No. Yeah, I did definitely feel misunderstood because when it came to being busy with this stuff, there was no one else that I knew at that age doing this.
Yeah. And then at the age of 15, you joined a very big consultancy firm. But how should I envision that? You just walk in with your rucksack and there are people in their 40s welcoming their new colleague.
That's kind of how it happened, yes. Yeah. And I was working in the office 3 days a week there. So it was pretty interesting to experience that. It was like having a real job day to day.
Yeah. But I think from a technical perspective, you were probably good maybe you already were more advanced than some of the other people, but also from dealing with politics at an office, or as you said, joining your colleagues for lunch. It
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
It was weird, and that was actually I gained a lot of experience from those moments, because normally you would learn this at university, being required to collaborate on projects, and I needed to learn that now in practice directly.
yeah. But it went quite well, as I believe. If we fast forward a little bit, you had as a teenager, then sounds weird, but had a lot of different cool positions, mainly on the offensive side, but also with different consultancies. So I think you really learn and grow a lot. And then in 2017, you decide to take another big jump and start your own business.
Yeah.
What was the reason to because then you're also still very young to take sort of this leap of faith and become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so what basically happened, which was also an interesting one, is Astrid was one of the key founders for the Cyberwerkplaats, the cyber workplace. And I, apart from having my day-to-day job, I was teaching their teens to how to find vulnerabilities, and actually doing what I recognized what was not happening at the schools at the time. And there I met two people who already owned companies, and they, from one moment to another, they proposed me, hey, jump by our office one time, and I did. And then they did this very bold offer. Hey, do you want to start a company with us in cybersecurity?
And did you have to think long and hard, or?
I think I was very, I was taken back for a second, and then I realized, well, maybe I should just go for it.
Yeah,
and then I did.
Yeah, and then again, you're also probably learning way quicker than boys and girls at the same age that you sort of skip the regular high school and university part, and then you're already a business owner. What were some of the setbacks that you faced maybe early on, joining like older colleagues, and also becoming a business owner? There were probably some rough times as well that you feel like I'm taking off, chewing more than I can actually take and absorb.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that the most setbacks were from being misunderstood, because you have they would expect you to be older as well. They would expect you to be knowing certain things which you would have learned if you would have a university degree, and I needed to learn that all in practice. So oftentimes I was misunderstood there.
Yeah,
because they expected different behavior.
And can you give an example that you struggled?
Yeah, definitely. It was like, for example, with managing a technical team during an incident, that on the communication level, on the technical level, I knew very well what to do and how to fix it. But being able to tell that to your colleagues, and being able to form a vision together on how to approach the problem and tackle it together, that requires a lot of different skills than just technical.
Yeah. So it was sort of a pressure cooker that you were thrown in. And
Yeah.
I can also imagine if you're founding a company together, then probably your colleagues the new hires were probably also older than you.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to always be the young kid?
I think it's mainly because also of my ways of working and my character, that I was often classified as older in their head, so that wasn't such a problem anymore. I think it was mostly in certain situations that they didn't realize that I sometimes lacked the literal college experience, or how to collaborate, for example. And that's things that I've been working on for myself, because I recognize that that's one of the more important things to be able to be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we know each other quite well already. Also, before we entered the studio, but you don't strike me as a young professional, and I mean that in a positive way. So I don't feel like I'm sitting here with somebody in the mid-20s and not at all. So that's already a big compliment. Also on the soft skills and communication skills. So yeah, no, it's super interesting. This is not the typical path that you have followed.
No,
Yeah.
and I if I would do it all over again, I would still do it the same way because it gave me a lot of valuable insights and a lot of learnings that I think some people in their 40s or 50s don't have.
And out of my curiosity, but if you look at the current school system, do you feel if you would have children yourself that would you send them to the regular education system, or do you feel like there's a different path for everybody, so choose your own way, same as I did?
I'm hanging on to thoughts there because on the one hand, yes, because I do recognize that some things that I learned there are very valuable to this day. But I do think that the right support at the right time, that would be necessary to get them on the path that they want to be on, and not necessarily the path that everyone else on the outside looks at them that they should take.
Yeah, that's maybe the pressure from society. Just everybody wants to fit in.
Yeah.
I recognize. Yeah. And what was the reason for starting the business? And I think the focus was very much on incident response. This is already quite a long time ago. But did you see a big market gap there, or what was
there
idea?
was definitely, and I think there still is a big market gap there, because when it comes to general like security posture of a lot of organizations right now, it is getting better, but there's still a lot to be done. And you see that mostly with smaller or mid-sized companies, that they don't have stuff in place. They often rely on their MSP which they expect them to do it for them. But fact of the matter is that as a business owner, you stay responsible for your company and the security posture of the company. And a lot of company owners don't realize that yet, that in the end, they are the ones responsible and not the people that you hire.
And when you call in the incident responders, then it's already too late, basically. But as I understood, you also can expect major bills. So it's very niche skill to bring in.
Yeah, it is, and it's often when it's really literally digitally burning. That's the moment that the incident responders get called in, and you see that's often on a Friday, 5:00, when the IT system administrator realizes, oh, this is not going to be fixed before Monday. I have a problem now.
Yeah. What's the life of an incident responder? It's like a 24/7 job.
It is. It's a very intense job. I can say, because you go from one incident to another, and there has been weeks that I wasn't home for several weeks after each other, and I was there like on an incident for 6-7 weeks straight, just going literally to a washing station to wash your clothes, to be able to have some clean clothes.
I don't know. Can you go deeper on that incident? I'm not sure if you can go into the real details or mention the company.
Mention the company, no.
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 But what was something, an incident that you really felt like, okay, this was something special?
There was this big college who had a lot of students, and right before the start of the new school year, they got hacked and they got ransomed. And the demands were pretty high because they expected kind of like American school type of institutions, which apparently have a lot more money than we have here, which simply was not the case. So this school didn't even have the type of money that they asked to be able to pay a ransom, even if they wanted to, which they didn't, which I thought was a very strong message from this board as well. They were like, no, we're not gonna pay. We're gonna fix this ourselves, and we can fix it ourselves. And it was those types of those incidents, like 30,000 computers which were completely offline and nobody being able to work in any of the school buildings. And then we were there with a team of like 5 people dealing with the incident, and then together with the IT personnel to be able to get it up and running again.
And what are the steps that you then have to take?
Well, we often we use, that's what I also like, open source standards to standardize those incident response steps. So you have from SANS, you have what they call PyCurl, And it often starts with the preparation phase, but yeah, you're already a bit too late if you're into that. So you have an identification phase in which you start to identify, okay, where are the attackers actually? What did they actually attack? What's the scope of the investigation of the targeted systems? Then you go into the containment phase. And containment means we try to, sometimes you cannot just contain one system, but you have to isolate the whole network. So you literally cut off the internet connection. That's always a very hard decision to bring to a board. Like we have to literally shut down our connections.
Yeah, because then the company is completely down.
Yeah, so you try to keep that time as short as possible. But sometimes it is required to get them out fully, properly. Then you often go in what we call the eradication phase. And the eradication phase, it's all revolves around cleaning up systems, making sure that all access paths are completely killed off and all backdoors are gone. And then you would proceed to what we call a recovery phase. And this recovery phase means you're going to slowly bring systems back up online, controlled, monitor them, put the right type of EDR in place or XDR to see if there's anything happening, and to make sure that you're fully tackled the incident. And then afterwards, the last phase we will always call the lessons learned. Okay, what happened here? How can you improve? And what should you do to avoid this type of situation in the future?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a smooth path.
Yeah. Well, it's a smooth path in theory, but it's a bumpy road in practice.
Yeah. And then I find it especially interesting because you might have been also on the path to become a hacker and you stayed on the ethical path. But it's interesting that boys and girls on the other side probably have a similar interest as you.
It all comes from eventually just an interest about how things work. And you can either abuse that or you can use it for the good. And I chose to use it for good.
Yeah. But when because will you also negotiate for a company on the ransomware? Is that also in your?
We oftentimes advise not to pay, of course.
Yeah.
And there has been in the past some situations in which we helped out companies either through other specialized people for that, because negotiation is a specialized thing as well, to be able to understand the other party. And you see that oftentimes if we do any type of negotiations, it's mostly to get more information about the attackers, because sometimes we already know there's going to be no payment because it's already has been decided by a board, and we still initiate negotiations to try to gain more information to maybe help the police out in the future investigation.
Yeah. And can you recognize certain groups now? Because you've seen a lot of incidents.
Yeah, you can recognize based on sometimes the type of ransomware used, yes, but also in the communications, you see that there's sometimes the same people.
And the role of AI, is it now also changing the way hackers deal about negotiating or something? They can draft probably very clean and nice reactions now, so that is very
but also when it comes to in general being able to target companies, AI is a huge risk on the one hand for companies, but also a huge possible solution if implemented properly and transparently. And that's what with a lot of AI is not happening yet.
Yeah. Maybe good to discuss that in a later stage as well, the AI development. But to come back to the hackers, that I wonder, can you sometimes enjoy how they pursued a certain attack, or how are they able to get into systems, knowing that maybe you're not much different than they are, but they just choose a different path, but the intelligence and the way of working might be very similar.
Sometimes. Oftentimes, I would say it's a bit of a lazy job, which also tells something about the security posture of the company or institute that might be compromised. And that can have all sorts of reasons, of course, why that's happening. But there are some cases, and yes, you can very much at least appreciate the inventiveness of how they achieved something, definitely. Does it mean it's correct? No, not at all. It's not correct at all to do it, but it does give you some valuable insights about how much effort they put into it and how well they know what they're doing.
Are those boys and girls very wealthy, would you say? Are they
Sometimes.
making money? Yeah.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, and the question is, it's always a question of when you're going to get caught. And also, especially if you're living in one of the countries like Russia, and you perform these type of actions, that basically you lock yourself up in a country because you can never travel abroad anymore if they find out who you are. And at the same time, it's also a bit about conscious, like what do you actually do? You create real damage and at other companies, and I've seen literal CEOs crying when they're like, okay, I cannot have my employees working anymore, and what should I do now? Because if it goes on like this, I'm gone soon.
Yeah. So it's not something to be proud of at all. No. It's good that you stayed on the good side.
Yes.
Yeah. And to come back to the incident response company, I think, of course, it's a good business to be in, because more and more companies are.
But it's also very much it's one of the niches within cybersecurity which also has the highest burnout rates, because those people that I have seen in incident response are very dedicated to help people out and fix what needs to be fixed. But it also comes at the risk of completely forgetting yourself as a incident responder, and in the end, paying the price for that.
As I heard you say, also being away weekends, nights, you go all in.
Yeah, because it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock
when
a company is down. When they need to be able to work again, it doesn't stop.
Yeah. And last year, you part ways with your co-founders, and now there's a new horizon.
Definitely.
But you joined first you became a freelancer, again providing services to companies. The first one was Ideal.
Yes, thanks to you guys at CSD as well, definitely.
Yeah, no, thanks.
It was a very awesome opportunity.
Yeah, no, glad to help. And I think Europeans know Ideal because probably all of the transactions we do.
Ideal, and we often don't realize it's very Dutch.
Yeah,
it's completely Dutch, and that's gonna be changing soon now. So that's very cool.
Yeah,
because Ideal has been acquired by EPI, the European Payments Initiative, and the way that we know with paying Ideal day to day, that's gonna be now finally. I think it's a good thing, European. So the same type of easy and secure type of payments that we do day to day with Ideal, because it's a lot that we use it. We use it for almost everything. I think it's gonna be now also possible across Europe.
But what is it like in the payments industry?
Well, in the payments industry, you see that there's a lot more regulations already also coming out of Europe. So, like for example, DORA, which is very, I think, well specifying not only from a perspective of an act how that you should do it. So you should implement something like cryptography, but also dictates you a lot more with what they call regulatory technical standards, so RTS, how you should actually implement it. And that's something that I think is very positive, because it finally gives some very clear guides on how to actually do this properly. And you see that in finance a lot of things get tested out by regulators in the finance world. And if that works, you see that being actually applied to general public and general companies.
And for me, it's interesting that you started your first gig with ABN AMRO in finance. Is that coincidence, or do you really enjoy protecting also financial institutions? Because you're close to the money, so there's a lot of hackers probably.
I think it was at that time a coincidence, because I did a lot of responsible disclosures. I think I've done over the past 15 years. I think I did approximately 1,600 responsible disclosures. So
crazy.
It's a lot. But it's very funny to see it all look back in the end. And I do enjoy helping out the companies and institutions within the finance world, because what you see there is that there's a lot more understanding for being compliant and actually doing compliance. And a lot of companies outside of the finance world don't, or they do it just a bit less, to put it like that. So because there's so much regulation, people have a lot more understanding for what you need to do when it comes to security.
And are you this compliancy kind of person?
Well,
you didn't start like that.
No, I started off definitely as the complete opposite, because I think it's very important to be able to think outside of the box. But I do recognize that having basics in place is very important, and that you can still do that. Then you can still think outside of the box, even if you have your basics in place.
Yeah, no, it's funny because your title, I think officially now, is also TISO, which is sort of this new buzzword going around, but a technical information security officer. I think that combines your skill sets quite well. You started very technical, and now more and more you're becoming this business leader, manager, and also looking more and more into the compliancy part and actually appreciating the
definitely. And that's also the interesting part. And that's also, for example, what you see with methodologies like Brenno, that was recently on your podcast as well with Miao, because it's taking a concept like penetration testing, which is this very abstract concept, which in my opinion, it's still a kind of a cowboy industry when it comes to how it's performed. And you take that concept, which is very important to test if the security of a system is implemented correctly. And you recognize that there are some basics that you can do, and you can actually put these basics in the list to make sure that at least the basics are covered, and you can still go outside of the box. That's not limited in any way, but it requires you to at least do the basics.
Yeah, and the financial services industry is maybe the leading sector, and over the years, this will probably migrate to, hopefully, to other sectors as well.
Definitely, and also when you see like government institutions recognize this and also started using this to actually buy their pen test, I think that's a very good development, because then it's finally the customer asking what they want and not the industry dictating what they think is best.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible journey so far. Also, now you're still an entrepreneur, but at this point, maybe more a contractor. But I'm very sure that you have higher goals, higher ambitions. So I think you want to start building a new venture again.
Definitely.
What are things that you find very appealing nowadays if you look at the industry?
What I think is a great thing or a great issue that we right now have is and I think the term is very interesting, and I think it's very appropriate. It's called watermelon compliance. So it's green from the outside, but actually very red from the inside. So, and this is what we see often, is that people just go for checkboxes and not for actually being compliant in a proper way. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I see right now going wrong. So it looks everything on the surface that everything is correct, but it still leads to incidents. And you see that, for example, and that was an incident that was publicly published at Hof van Twente, in which everyone there in even the major was told that everything was correct and everything looked good on paper. And then it still went wrong. And I think that's one of the big things there that we have to look out for. Like, how can you actually validate that something is correct, and not just take, okay, it's a green, it's a stoplight with a green light, so it's okay. And that's one of the things that I think is very important to tackle, to be able to actually audit content-wise if it's correctly.
And how would you build a business around this?
Well, on the one side, I think it's, and that's what I'm busy with, is developing these more methodologies to actually check into if something is done correctly. And otherwise, you can do a lot of automation there to be able to make it easier to be compliant, because that's a lot of times being compliant means a lot of manual work, because you have to do these controls and you have to do sampling of them. You have to do a lot there just to prove that you're doing it right. And that's also makes people take shortcuts. But that process, we can automate a lot of those things very easily, right now there's a lot of companies advertising that they do that. But in practice, it's very hard to automate it.
And you feel the burning desire to build a business again? Because you
Definitely.
started as an intern, you've been a consultant, you've been a business owner, you've been a contractor. But you do feel that the entrepreneurial path is the one for you.
Yes, definitely. Because I really think that I can make a difference there.
Yeah. And what lessons have you learned over the years, and what would you share with the listeners? Like, what are some do's and don'ts if you look at becoming an entrepreneur in cyber?
I think that one of the main lessons that I learned there is that it's always good to take the other party that you're talking to or a colleague into perspective and have a respect for what they tell you. And get like that information that they give you from them, but also make sure that you have a very clear path from the beginning about what your goals are. And of course, your goals can be reshaped a bit, but they should you should stay on your path. And that's what I see a lot happening. That a lot of experts jump from one expertise to another. And they become more generalist, like we could call huisartsen.
Yeah,
in
general practitioners.
Practitioners. And we also very much need those specialists who are completely able to focus on one area of expertise. And I think the other thing that's really, really important to know and to keep an eye on too is it doesn't matter how good you are from a technical perspective, but if you cannot properly communicate it with the right people, like a board or the IT manager, then your findings are worthless.
But you went through that process yourself. Maybe at the age of 16, 17, you were finding amazing things. But you were also still this young kid. So you also had to learn that the hard way.
Yes. Yeah. And I think even a lot of people right now coming from school or coming from university with a degree, even they don't know yet how to communicate that correctly, and that you actually have some office politics into that and company politics. And it's one of the most important things in even as a consultant to be able to accurately and objectively tell what's going on and how to fix it.
And what are your secrets there? What have you learned over the last decade and a half?
Well, for myself, I recognize that there's a lot to be, but that's for me. That there's a lot to be to be able to learn there. So I use a lot of metaphors to explain what's going on, and I recognize for myself that actually helps to explain this to, for example, a board member. So that's one insight that I use a lot of metaphors and try to make it as easy as possible for them.
Like the watermelon example you gave.
Exactly.
Yeah. It does stick. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and one of the other things that is just, this is literally something you can train for with communication training, and it's really interesting. I followed a lot of trainings in that to have these like type of acting settings in which you're gonna confront someone or you're gonna have to have a hard conversation with someone, and that really helps you to be able to deal with the situations in real life better.
Yeah, there's sort of this role plays scenarios.
Yeah. So you're
not in the bedroom, but in the boardroom.
Basically that definitely. Yeah. So that those type of like trainings are really valuable for this type of stuff.
Yeah. No, but nice, very interesting. Well, I think over the next years, we're gonna be seeing each other and hear each other more and more often. I'm very curious, but I also do believe that you will start something big again. And then for me as a fellow entrepreneur, I also really like this path. I do think it's also stressful. And also what you say, it does not really stop at 5, and it does not stop when you go on vacation, because there's always, also in the back of my mind, there's always this thing, I can do something that would benefit the business. And at some point you have to say, I'm just not going to do anything. But for me, that was very difficult, especially the first years, to really just say, I'm just going to unplug and really throw the phone away for a while. So in that sense, it's a bit similar as an incident responder job. That it continues day and night, but the rewards are also
Definitely,
amazing.
and that's also what I do recognize, like building a company like that and being able to make a difference with these companies and seeing actually it working out in practice and that they are secure and they stay secure. That's something very valuable.
Yeah, and looking at your path so far, you're still a young stud. Say in 10, 20 years, do we still see you in the cybersecurity space? And what type of legacy would you like to leave, or what big problem would you like to solve?
I think I will definitely be around in 20 years, definitely. And for me, it's really looking forward also into the future about how to, for example, deal with this new machine learning or artificial intelligence based threat. I think that's a lot of people are jumping on it right now. But going back to the basics, I really like this metaphor of AI, which is, I think, still very much applies to AI to this day. But maybe it's going to change soon. Don't get me on that. But right now, I see AI as a room full of interns, which you can ask a question into this room and you get thrown 40 different answers. And you still have to filter it. You still have to check what's coming out of it because it can still be all garbage.
And if you would be a bad hacker, like an unethical hacker,
I think it can very much help you to speed up your processes. Definitely, you can craft emails faster without spelling mistakes. You can make more convincing emails. So you can make more convincing. For example, voice spoofing would be one of the interesting things we're going to see, or even like deepfake videos that are now going to become very much live with new developments like Google VO, which are making very realistic AI videos with sound as well.
Yeah. Is it smart that we're doing this podcast recording on video and on audio?
Well, they don't need so much as I think they need around 10 seconds or even less of audio footage to be able to spoof it. So it doesn't really at this point
5 seasons of this
yes.
podcast. I'm screwed.
Yeah. So and I think those advancements are really something that as like legitimate businesses have to look out for, and that we as a security I say that branch.
Yeah, the industry.
Yeah. So we as a security industry, we have to really help our clients with that. So that's really something that I see that a lot of people are talking about now, very general, and now it really has to come into practice.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, maybe to make the bridge to the last and final question that we always ask every guest. Maybe it could be related to AI. But if you can send one signal message to all the CISOs across the world, what would this signal message say?
If there would be one signal message I would send, is that it's really time to start to inform your company board or in the board of your institution that in order to get our act together as Europe, we have to really step up our game, both in terms of financing the implementation of cybersecurity at individual companies, as well as recognizing that it's not a just cost for the company, but it's making sure that the company stays afloat and stays running. And I think we really should stop talking about cybersecurity in companies and institutions just as a cost, but also as it starts to slowly become a license to operate. And if you don't have it in place, you can't operate properly.
Beautiful. That's a nice statement there. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mischa. It was really insightful, and again, super impressed with your journey, and
thanks for having me.
Going great as not even a college dropout, but a high school dropout. I think you're doing amazing, and I admire your boldness, and looking forward to the next venture.
Let's meet in the future.
We will. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, and until next time in the district.